A day or two had passed, and Cheong-san couldn't tell the difference, but what had been constant was the screams and whimpers Na-Yeon was releasing when they were sleeping. She always proceeded to apologize profusely, but he knew this couldn't continue for long. Na-Yeon had also not been eating as much, even considering their situation. He knew she had to eat. Anytime she had let out a scream that he tried to be quick to muffle, there were always groans and bangs outside from the monsters. He remembered their talk a while ago as he looked over the bags under her eyes and her disheveled face. She had asked him to talk about Gyeong-su. It had made him mad at the time, but after starting he found that he couldn't stop as he recounted all the memories and adventures he got up to with him. It had felt odd even as he laughed at some of the stupid stories. Most of the time he hadn't even realized he was crying as he told them to her. She had just quietly listened, nodding to show that she was listening and paying attention when he told her about something. Looking back on it, the whole experience had felt as if he finally had a moment to mourn his best friend, because with everything, he hadn't had the time. He had silently cried after as Na-Yeon looked on till she laid down and faced away for him. Even he knew that she felt tormented. They had quietly fallen asleep after that, which was then interrupted by her nightmares, the first of many. Cheong-san. It was barely above a whisper, but he heard it and raised his head, expecting to meet her eyes. She was looking downwards, her arms wrapped around herself as if to protect her from everything. What? Na-Yeon was more surprised at his reply. She had expected him to just ignore her, but he didn't. Well, he might after what she was about to ask for. I know you hate me, but could you please hold me tonight? She didn't look up, not wanting to see the disgust that she expected to be painted on his face or hear the truthful, venomous words that he would throw at her. So she waited and waited, but nothing came. She guessed he was just going to ignore her. That would be fine, too. Cheong-san could admit that he had been caught off guard by the request, but he could guess there were no other options. He had seen in the little time they had been together in this room that her nightmares had only been getting worse. So, you think sleeping next to me will help you? He asked, and she looked up at him as if shocked to just be hearing a response. I don't know, but I want to try. I know you hate me and don't want to be anywhere near me, but I don't want to keep you up and keep attracting attention to us. She could see his face as he stared off into the distance, almost as if the gears were turning. His eyes leveled on her again as he slowly moved forward towards her. Her blood froze as he slowly approached her. They hadn't been this close since the first time she had let him into the classroom. Watching him approach had her mind running with the possibilities of him using this as a means to finally kill her, and the cold, blank expression on his face didn't help. The weird part was now she could remember what he looked like when he laughed, cried, was excited, and angry. Before all this, she had only seen him looking ever more like a robot that was forced to go to school. All those thoughts went silent as he sat down next to her. Yeah, you're right. We need to rest, and with you waking us up constantly, we're never going to be at our best when we need to go out. He went to the shelves and grabbed some blankets before returning to her side. Okay. Middle of the room, or are we doing this against the wall? She let out a small giggle that she quickly silenced, but the small laughter she heard from him, too, was enough to ease some of the tenseness out of her body. Middle of the room, I hate this wall. He just gave her a nod as a reply before he set some blankets down as a base and then laid down as he used the others as cover. The last thing Cheong-san wanted was for them to get sick because they slept on the floor during this apocalypse. Na-Yeon stood tensely beside the makeshift bed. Are you getting in or what? Yes, I'm getting in, she said quickly, before scrambling under the blankets and keeping enough distance between them. Cheong-san lay there looking at the ceiling with one of his hands wrapped around his baseball bat and the other tightly gripping the sheet, and once in a while glancing at the door as if the monsters could come through any moment. When he turned back to Na-Yeon, she had fallen asleep rather quickly, which was easy to see as she had been dead tired. With a sigh, he closed his eyes. He knew even he had to sleep, otherwise he was going to become another burden. After a while, as he was starting to fall asleep, he heard a whimper, then hard, fast breathing. He quickly opened his eyes to see Na-Yeon twisting and turning in the bed. He didn't know what to do. If he woke her up, she would scream. If he left her, she would scream. There was no good option, so she made one. Almost as if looking for something to ground her, Na-Yeon reached out desperately in all directions, and Cheong-san, having gotten closer to take a look that she was okay, fell into her grasp, which immediately tightened around him. He froze for a while, trying to think of how he could dislodge himself from her, but that only seemed to make her tighten her grip more. As she pressed the side of her head against his chest and listened to his heartbeat and felt his warmth, Na-Yeon stopped her sudden flailing. Cheong-san just laid there as he heard her breathing even out as she went back to a hopefully more peaceful sleep that guaranteed their safety. The blanket had been thrown about in her flailing, but he reached for it again as he covered the both of them in it. He wouldn't tell her because of what she did, but he also knew he needed someone too. "Good night, Na-Yeon,"